Hi everyone, it's Christina with Bubblegum Paper, and I'm back with another card in my 25 Cards in 25 Days Holiday Card Series. I'll put a link to the playlist in the upper right corner so you can see all the cards I've made so far. And today I'm here with card number 18, and I'm back on schedule. I'm featuring products from Mama Elephant and Lawn Fawn. And today's card is a little more elaborate than most of my cards. This is a spinning card. It's so much fun. I really enjoyed making it. Here's a close-up of the front of the card, and when you open it up, here's the inside. And the little reindeer and sheep spin. The products I'm using from Mama Elephant are their Reindeer Games, Woolly Winter, and Jingle Greeting stamps. From Lawn Fawn, I'm using the scalloped rectangles, the stitched rectangle frames, and the little town border. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm stamping down the reindeer and the sheep. Now, what's great about both of these stamp sets, the Reindeer Games and Woolly Winter, is that the mirror images are provided. So you don't need to do any special stamping like I did in card number 7. Here you just have to stamp both sides of the mirror images. And they're so cute. For the coloring, I'm going to use a series of browns and warm grays on the sheep, and then for the reindeer, I'm going to use mostly browns and a little bit of cool grays on the hooves. This is one of the cards that I sketched out really early in the series. So when I was thinking about the holiday card series and I saw these stamps, I was like, wow, these two are going to work together so well. I can't wait to make a really fun card with them. And then I sketched it out, and then I thought, oh, maybe if it was a spinning card, that would be fun too. And how fun would it be if I made this sheep like a Rudolph wannabe? Or you know that saying, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, here it's a reindeer in sheep's clothing? And then it just sat in my box of, I kind of set all the kind of Christmas supplies aside and I put this one in the box and it just sat there. And every time I went to go figure out the next card I was going to make, I would bypass this one because I knew how elaborate it was going to be and how much time it was going to take. And it was a little bit overwhelming. So I kept ignoring it, even though I knew that I really wanted to make this card. So, anyways, because it's the weekend, I decided to set aside a lot of time and focus on making this card. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Now, this morning I saw a comment on one of the videos saying from Billy asking if I could kind of explain my thought process as I go through the coloring. So I'll explain some of the techniques I use here. I'm definitely not the most professional colorer out there, but I can definitely explain what I'm doing as I go through the coloring. And then towards the end, I'll speed it up and set it to some music, and then I'll be back with the rest of the card. So here for the sheep, I'm actually using a series of warm grays, the W00, the W0, and the W2. These are the lightest of the warm gray spectrum. And the reason why I'm using it on the light side is I still want him to have kind of a white look to him, but the warm grays kind of help add a little bit of color and texture. I also wanted to make him a little fluffy, so instead of coloring him in and blending all the colors together, I kind of dotted parts of him and the skin in places. And you can make it even more fluffy if you take the colorless blender marker and just add some dots here and there, and it'll push the color away. For the hooves, I actually here use W2, W4, and W5. And I go back later on in this video and I use the cool grays because I decided I wanted his hooves to match the reindeer's hooves. For the ears, I'm using just R20 to add a little bit of pink and then the lightest warm gray to blend that out. So it's just slightly pink. And then for the antlers, I'm going to use a series of browns. So I'm using E50 and coloring in all the antlers. So now I'm moving over to the reindeer. And I decided I wanted to make the reindeer's face also E50. And this is the same set of colors I used in the previous card. So in card number 17, when I was coloring in that single reindeer, I used the E50s on the antlers and on the face. Now when I color the elements, I usually use 3 different shades of markers, and I figure out which ones kind of coordinate well or will blend well together. And then I start with the lightest color, Then I add some accents with the medium color, and then I add like very little details with the darkest color. Then I go back and in reverse order, I blend it all together. So I go light, medium, dark, and then back to medium, and then back to light. And then eventually they do all blend together. Sometimes I change my mind, so you'll see me kind of pick up markers here and there. This will be best seen when I'm coloring in the reindeer because there's so many that I'm coloring in. But you'll see me go from the lightest shade to the medium shade to the darker shade, back to medium and back to light. And then eventually it all blends together. So anyhow, I'm going to set this to some music because there's a ton of coloring ahead. I'm speeding it up and I will be back at the end. So now I'm just adding some yellows and reds for the collar and the little metal on the jingle bell and on the reindeer's collar, and I'm using cool grays on the hooves. Next I'm going to take the coordinating dies and I'm cutting out the sheep and the little reindeer. They're so fun and so cute, and because the dies come with this, it's very easy to do the mirror imaging. And then I'm using the scalloped rectangles from Lawn Fawn. I'm using the second largest one, and I'm going to cut this piece of cardstock out twice. So I want two scalloped rectangles, and then I'm going to use the second largest scalloped, no, the second largest stitched rectangle frame die, also from Lawn Fawn, and I'm centering it over the scalloped rectangles, and then I'm running that through twice as well. And the last thing I'm doing is taking the largest Simon Says Stamp stitched rectangle die, and I'm cutting out a panel from the front of an A2 size card. The reason why I use the Simon Says Stamp die on this is because I wanted a rectangle that would be smaller than the scalloped rectangle, but larger than the stitched rectangle frame. And so I just looked through my collection, and this one just seemed to work. So I'm taking that same insert, because I figure I might as well use the insert, and I'm going to do some Distress Ink blending. I'm using a series of blues, so I have Salty Ocean, Blueprint Sketch, and Chipped Sapphire. And usually when I do this, I leave a section of it white, but because I'm going to kind of have this window effect on the front, I decide to color the entire panel in blue. Next, I'm taking the Lawn Fawn Snow Cool stamp set that you saw me use in an earlier card, and I'm just going to use the snowy part of that. And I'm just testing to make sure the ink is dry at this point, because if it's not dry, then the embossing powder will stick to the whole thing. So, so I'm taking the Versamark ink and I'm just inking up the snow, and then I'm adding it to the whole top panel. And then I take my white embossing powder. This is Ranger's white embossing powder as well. It's just like my liquid platinum that I love to use. It's very fine. And then I added the snow, and now I'm taking the sentiment. It says sending holiday hugs, and I'm adding that to the lower right corner. And then, sorry, I was out of focus. Then I'm adding more embossing powder. Then I decided I wanted some more snow on the lower left corner. So I just took like a corner of that snow, the snow stamp, and inked that up and added embossing powder. So up till this point, I haven't heat set it. I wanted to do all the embossing powder pieces first. And now I'm going to go in with my heat tool and just heat set the whole thing. I love how the snow just kind of melts and it turns from like this lighter color to like an opaque white color. It's so cool. Next, I'm going to add my Wink of Stella to all the colored images. And the reason why I'm doing it here versus the last step is the card's so elaborate that either number one, I was going to forget to do it, or number two, it'd be really hard to put on while it's spinning. And then for the little sheep, I wanted to make him the Rudolph of the bunch. So, I didn't color in his nose because I have these tiny little red pearl embellishments, and I decided to add those to the top of his nose. Now I'm taking some twine and I'm just cutting it out in 3 strands. And then I'm going to glue this twine to the back of each of these animals. So I'm using some soooo tape. This is the same tape I used in card number 16. It's super, super strong. And so I'm using that to hold the twine in place. And then I'm using regular tape runner adhesive on the other half of the animal, and I'm going to glue those two together to make it a sandwich that spins. I'll do the same with the 2 reindeer and use the same soooo and then the tape runner adhesive so that it spins. Next, I'm taking the little town border die. Oh, you know what? I don't even know if took, I don't remember filming this part. Did my camera die? Anyways, at some point in the die cutting, I did cut out the little town border die twice. I don't know, maybe I just missed it in the editing process. Anyhow, it's the same idea. You die cut the little town border. I did it twice because I wanted to make the little windows seem like they had light in them. So I'm cutting out this little strip of scrap yellow paper and taping it on the back of every single window. But when you open the card, you don't want to see a bunch of little yellow tabs. So that's why I cut the little town twice, because once I glue the sheep and the reindeer over it, I can cover that piece up with the second little town border. It also um, holds all of the string in place. So there was a technical reason for why I needed 2 little town borders. Now I'm taking that soooo tape again and I'm just taping it to the frame. This is the inside front of the card. And this is where I'm just kind of gluing all of them in place and hoping that they will stay down. And then once all the glue is there and I've ripped off all the adhesive backing and trimmed the little strings, I will then add the second little town border to cover up this entire mess that I have. You'll see in parts of it, the string still shines through the windows, so I do take an extra piece of yellow paper and cover up the window in those sections. Next, I'm taking my second scalloped rectangle, I'm just adding some adhesive to it, and I'm gluing that to the inside front of the A2 card that I cut out. So I'm just going to stick that here, and this will serve as a guide on where I need to place the front of the card. And then for this front panel, I'm going to, I don't know why I'm adding more adhesive. I think I'm adding more adhesive to make sure this string doesn't fall off, because once the string falls off, the card is over. Like, it's very hard to rip the card apart and try to put the string back on. So I'm being extra, extra, extra careful. This is going to be so strong. And now I'm attaching foam adhesive on top of that. So hopefully the string won't fall. If you do spin it a little too much, it will start to bend a little, but I'm looking at the sheep right now and he looks a little bent already, but oh well, I'm already too far in the process to change that. So I added foam adhesive to the front panel and now I'm just going to rip that off and I'm aligning that square with the square of the inside front of the card. Next, I'm adding the Sending Holiday Hugs embossed piece, and it's so fun because you can see through the window and you can see the snow through the window with the reindeer and the sheep, and then it opens up. And I started playing with it already. And as I was playing with it and kept opening it up, I realized the Y of the holiday and Sending Holiday Hugs was missing some embossing powder. So I just went back and added powder and reset that with my heat tool. So here's a finished card in all its spinning glory and action. And here are some still images of the finished card. This is the front of the card. I couldn't get they would not listen to me, the reindeer and the sheep. They wouldn't all face in the same direction I was trying to take the pictures, except for this one where I kind of forced it down. But in the other ones, I could not get them all to face in the same direction. I mean, how do you fly in a whole row if you can't face the same direction? I don't know. But, the little sheep is Rudolph in training, so he's still trying to figure that piece out. Okay, anyhow, thank you all so much for watching another card in my 25 Cards in 25 Days holiday card series. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more videos. You can also follow me on social media at Bubblegum Paper or visit my blog at bubblegumpaper.com. I'm putting a link to the two most recent videos I've posted before this one, cards number 16 and 17, so just click on the images and it'll take you straight to those videos. Thanks again and see you tomorrow. Bye!